A Soviet diplomat stepped into his car outside his apartment. The ignition clicked. A blast tore the night apart. Hours later in Rome, a man linked to Soviet intelligence inserted his key into his door, only to collapse instantly from a single bullet to the head. 2 hits, 2 cities, 2 continents, and not a single police report could explain how the killers slipped in or out. But intelligence agencies instantly recognized the signature. Israel had entered the Cold War's darkest battlefield. Munich 1972 had changed the rules forever. 11 Israeli athletes murdered live on TV. It wasn't just terrorism, it was humiliation calculated for global broadcast. Palestinian militants carried out the operation, but behind them stood a superpower with deeper motives. The Soviet Union funded, trained, armed and directed extremist groups like Black September and the PFLP, transforming them into tools of foreign policy. Moscow wanted Israel weakened, isolated and bleeding, without Soviet fingerprints on the knife. Israel decided humiliation would not go unanswered. If the Kremlin used proxies to kill Jews, Israel would destroy the entire proxy system, quietly, surgically, everywhere. Mossad didn't target every gunman, it targeted the people who made terrorism possible, financiers who channeled Soviet money into Europe, logisticians who arranged travel and housing, operatives inside embassies who provided passports and intelligence. Remove a shooter and the group recruits another. Remove the person who runs logistics and the entire network collapses. Their first operations were flawless, but perfection was temporary. Lillehammer, Norway. Mossad believed they had identified Ali Hassan Salameh, Munich's mastermind. They shot him in the street. But it wasn't Salameh, it was an innocent waiter named Ahmed Bouchiki. Arrests followed. Newspapers declared Mossad reckless. For the first time, Israel paused its campaign, not because the mission had failed, but because Mossad now needed absolute certainty before every trigger pull. While the world criticized Israel, Beirut prepared for a nightmare it never expected. Beirut was the central hub for PLO leadership and Soviet-backed militant operations. It was fortified by militias, guarded by security forces, and believed to be untouchable. Mossad didn't agree. They quietly built assets inside the city, rented apartments, tapped phone lines, documented routines. They knew which windows stayed lit late, which guards smoked during shifts, which cars never moved. When the blueprint was ready, Israel launched a strike no intelligence service thought possible. April to 1973, Israeli naval commandos infiltrated Beirut by sea at night. Mossad agents met them on shore, providing civilian cars with Lebanese plates. They drove calmly through enemy territory until 3 teams reached their targets. At the stroke of one, 3 apartment doors were breached. Gunfire erupted. Mohammed al-Najjar, Kamal Adwan, and Kamal Nasser, key operational planners and international coordinators, were killed within seconds. Commandos seized files and vanished back into the sea. When Beirut woke, they realized an entire team of assassins had just walked through their capital and disappeared like ghosts. The world suddenly understood. Nowhere on Earth was guaranteed protection anymore. Behind the dramatic raids, Mossad saw an even more important front: money. Soviet money. Militant operations depended on funding. Every safe house, every flight ticket, every rifle depended on someone writing a number in a bank ledger. Mossad followed the money across Europe. Libyan couriers, East German front companies, Eastern European banking channels. A frozen account could destroy a year of planning. A courier who vanished could prevent a bombing, no explosions required, just silence. That silence forced the Soviets to escalate. KGB chief Yuri Andropov personally managed support for Wadie Haddad, a PFLP commander responsible for airline hijackings and international terror operations. Soviet bloc nations shipped weapons with serial numbers removed, encrypted radios, and intelligence packages detailing airline vulnerabilities. Haddad's faction used fear like a broadcast. Airports became fortresses, passengers became bargaining chips. The entire world became hostage to his operations. Mossad changed strategy again. Instead of a gun or bomb, they chose a weapon without sound or smoke. They infiltrated Haddad's trusted suppliers. One of his personal items, possibly toothpaste, was replaced with a slow-acting poison. Haddad died in East Germany. Doctors were unable to explain the toxic collapse of his health. No gunfire, no traceable evidence, just a mastermind removed from the chessboard. But one name remained the most important on Mossad's list: Ali Hassan Salameh. He was the Red Prince, charismatic, dangerous, connected. He was the operational brain behind Munich, and unlike Haddad, Salameh had powerful friends in the West. The CIA valued him as a political informant and warned Israel repeatedly not to kill him. But Israel didn't care. Munich's ghosts screamed louder than Washington's suggestions. They built a new hunt from scratch. A female Mossad officer entered Beirut society under deep cover, gathering tiny details: where he drove, where he visited, who he trusted. One detail emerged, a predictable route. Salameh traveled the same road, at the same time, twice a week. Mossad placed a Volkswagen along that road. A rooftop watcher waited. When Salameh's convoy passed, the bomb detonated. His armored vehicle was torn apart. Salameh and his bodyguards died instantly. Black September collapsed soon after, leaderless and terrified. Washington fumed. Moscow panicked. Israel remained silent. The Soviets responded with infiltration. If they could not break Israel from outside, they would rot it from inside. Their most dangerous spy was Marcus Klingberg, an Israeli scientist secretly feeding defense secrets to Moscow for decades. When he was finally caught, the discovery shook Israeli security to its core. The KGB had embedded itself inside Israel's future. Mossad realized assassinations alone were not enough. Israel needed eyes everywhere. They activated the Sayanim network, diaspora Jews around the world willing to help quietly. A hotel manager could provide a guest list, a doctor could arrange treatment, a car rental agent could give a license plate. No coercion, no payment, just shared survival. Weapons wars moved to the sea. Soviet-supplied arms to Lebanon traveled on merchant vessels. Israeli naval commandos intercepted ships in the dark, seized crates of rifles, sometimes sinking vessels without claiming responsibility. Guns meant to kill Israelis now lay rusting on the Mediterranean floor. And in parallel, Mossad targeted Soviet hardware itself. Operations like the capture of a MiG-21 jet and the theft of a Soviet radar system gave Israel and the United States technological superiority. Understanding an enemy's weapon means neutralizing it before it fires. By the mid-1980s, Mossad no longer needed dramatic European hits. Quiet disruption did more damage. Passport forgers disappeared. Bank accounts froze. Safe houses were raided the day before meetings. Cells dissolved without a single headline. The Soviets feared what they could not see, track, or stop. Their empire began to crumble. Eastern Europe rebelled. Budgets evaporated, the Berlin Wall fell. The KGB, once omnipotent, was erased overnight. But intelligence agencies don't vanish, they mutate. The same KGB architects simply changed offices and acronyms: FSB, GRU, same poison labs, same safe houses, same belief that political murder is a legitimate tool. The Cold War ended on paper, but in the shadows the war never paused. Israel evolved too. New enemies emerged with new methods. Mossad responded with new tools. Pistols and forged passports became drones and cyber weapons. Explosives became precision missiles and malware that sabotaged nuclear programs. The doctrine remained untouched. If you target Israelis, you become a target. No borders, no warnings, no forgiveness. Did it work? In the short term? Absolutely. Black September dissolved. International hijackings plummeted. Soviet dominance in the Middle East faded into irrelevance. Israeli civilians abroad were safer than ever, but every action in intelligence creates a reaction. Removing one mastermind creates a vacancy someone else wants to fill. Eliminating one financier forces militants to find different money pipelines. Terminating one ideology leaves space for a more radical one to grow. Mossad bought Israel peace, but peace in intelligence is always temporary. Because this war was never just geographical, it was philosophical. The KGB believed fear controlled people, Mossad believed fear protected people. Both learned the same harsh truth: fear always demands to grow. Israel proved that Jewish lives were not cheap, not anymore, not ever again, but it also proved that a nation can become defined by its enemies. Justice without courts can become habit, habit can become doctrine, and doctrine can become identity. The world studied and copied. The United States built drone kill lists to hunt Al-Qaeda and ISIS leaders. Russia used nerve agents in London and Berlin to silence dissidents. Iran targeted defectors and scientists across continents. Turkey launched extraterritorial strikes against militants in Syria and Iraq. Even European countries now treat targeted assassination as a national security tool. Quietly, the blueprint? It began with the Mossad operations against Soviet-backed terror networks. That's the legacy. A small nation showed the world how power works in the dark. Yet the shadow war brought consequences even Mossad could not escape. New militant groups rose with new backers. Technology became a weapon for everyone. Drones, cyber attacks, encrypted channels, fear industrialized. Intelligence agencies adapted faster than diplomacy ever could. The battlefield became invisible, permanent, everywhere. Mossad fought to protect a future where Israelis could live without terror. The KGB fought to expand a world where Soviet influence could reshape history. Both sides believed they were defending their survival. Both sides created a world where every government believes a bullet can solve a problem before a meeting can. So, what did Mossad achieve? It dismantled Black September. It crippled Soviet support in the Middle East. It set a standard for global counterterrorism. It prevented thousands of deaths the public will never hear about. It proved survival doesn't always look honorable. Sometimes it looks ruthless. Is that justice? Or vengeance? Or a new form of war? Maybe it's all three. But that's just my opinion, because every nation now lives by rules that were written in this unseen conflict. Rules that say safety is purchased with fear, security is enforced with silence, justice is judged in secret. Enemies become targets, not defendants, and every target creates another target. The cycle doesn't break, it shifts. Each generation inherits not peace, but a list of debts, a list of names, a list that never gets shorter. Mossad didn't just hunt the KGB's networks, it hunted the idea that Jewish blood could be spilled without consequence. It sent a message written in operations, not diplomacy. If you come for us, we come for you harder, no matter how far, no matter how powerful, no matter how long it takes. That message worked, it still works, but its price is permanent vigilance, because the shadow war never ends. It simply finds new shadows. Today's operations look different. Satellites instead of rooftop spotters, cyber intrusions instead of surveillance vans. But the same principle guides them. Protect life by eliminating threats before they act. Prevent attacks not by arresting planners, but by removing them entirely. Victory in the shadows is not a celebration, it's a continuation. There are no parades, no medals, just the knowledge that someone who meant to kill you will never wake up again, and the hope that their replacement fails before they try. This war shaped the world we now live in. Borders matter less, intelligence matters more. Armies are no longer the most important force, assassins are. If this story made you think, you're seeing the truth. History isn't only what governments admit. History is what intelligence agencies do when no one is watching. Mossad changed the Cold War and every war after it, and whether we like it or not, those changes protect us and endanger us every single day. If this story changed how you see the secret world, don't just watch, join the hunt. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter dives even deeper. Up next, meet the Mossad agent who didn't just spy on Syria, he became their defense minister. Discover how Eli Cohen, Mossad's greatest infiltrator, nearly changed the fate of the Middle East from inside the enemy's war room. The money, the secrets, and the true cost of power, only on Brinkwell. The story isn't over, it's just getting started. See you in the next one.